Hopefully you'll keep time.
May it please the court. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Ms. Todd stood before you on Monday in her opening statement and told you this is not a case about who did it. And in fact, all of the evidence that you've seen tells you exactly that. It's not a case about who did it. You haven't seen one shred of evidence in this case that what happened on March 19th, 2024 was caused by anyone other than Carly Madison Gregg. The defense also told you during opening statements on Monday that the state wants you to leave your common sense at the door. That they want you to tie it up in a bucket and leave it at the door. Ladies and gentlemen, all we want you to do in this case is use your common sense. And in fact, that's what Judge Arthur just instructed you to do in the very first jury instruction. And I want to talk about a few of these jury instructions with you real quick. But in jury instruction number 1, which you'll have back in the room with you, on the second page, he instructs you, you're required and expected to use your good common sense and sound honest judgment in considering and weighing the testimony of each witness who has testified. You should not be influenced by bias, sympathy, or prejudice. Your verdict should be based on the evidence and not upon speculation, guesswork, or conjecture. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the state, all we want you to do is to go back there and use your good common sense and your sound, honest judgment. And again, I don't believe that you've heard one shred of evidence throughout this entire week that the person who shot Ashley Smiley was in fact Carly Madison Gregg. The person who shot and attempted to kill Heath Smiley was Carly Madison Gregg. And the person who took down the camera from the kitchen and hid it in the refrigerator behind some water bottles was Carly Madison Gregg. Now, Judge Arthur also read you the elements of the crimes. And again, you'll have this information back there with you in the jury instructions. It's jury instruction number 8. And I kind of want to go down because as a simple person myself, I like to kind of have a roadmap as to where I'm going. So I like to be able to look at things and see them on paper, and that's exactly what these jury instructions provide you, kind of a roadmap to help guide you in your deliberations. So I want to talk about count 1, which is the first degree murder. And there's 3 elements here that it has listed. And the very first one says that on about the 19th day of March 2024 in Rankin County, Mississippi. That's the first thing you have to find. Ladies and gentlemen, all the testimony has been that this happened on March 19th, 2024. You heard from Deputy Hunter Lewis, who was the first deputy who arrived on the scene there, that he was called out that day, that he received a call from dispatch to respond to 214 Ashton Way, which is in the Farmington Station subdivision off of Old Fannin Road. And you heard Mr. Kevin Collins, the 911 dispatcher, who told you that the call out came on that day at that time about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you heard them tell you that obviously Farmington Station is located in Rankin County, Mississippi. So there's no question as to that first part of the element there. As to number 2, that the defendant Carly Madison Gregg did willfully, feloniously, and without authority of law kill and murder Ashley Smiley, a human being. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Mr. Cliff Dunlap, the deputy coroner, who told you that the manner and cause of death in this case was found to be 3 gunshot wounds to the head, and that it was found to be homicide, and that the victim was indeed identified as Miss Ashley Smiley. The last part there is that she did it with deliberate design to effect the death of Ashley Smiley, the victim. Ladies and gentlemen, I would submit to you that in the state of Mississippi, when it talks about deliberate design, that it's simply talking about an intent to kill. An intent to kill the victim, Ashley Smiley. That she did this with an intent to kill. And I would further submit to you that the use of a deadly weapon is an intent to kill. Whenever you aim a deadly weapon, a pistol, a .357 revolver, at someone's head and you shoot 3 times, That's certainly an intent to kill. Now, again, it's not a case about who did it. And I'll show you some of the video here in just a second. But let's think about what happened that day. So you remember from the video, you saw from the garage, you heard several witnesses talk about it, that earlier that day, Mr. Bennett Germany and another friend, Sarah Catherine Rayleigh, who the defense put on the stand yesterday, you heard from them, and they said they devised this plan to go talk to Ashley, to go talk to Carly's mom, because they were worried about Carly. They were good friends. They were worried about Carly, and they were worried about her drug use, her use of burner phones. And I just want to be clear, ladies, this is not a case about marijuana and whether or not she was smoking marijuana. This is a case about whether or not she was intoxicated, voluntary intoxicated. You heard me talk to Dr. Clark about that she would, one of these times that she says she has one of these events where she supposedly zoned out. That, in fact, what happened was that she went and smoked marijuana. It could have been any drug, but it was just marijuana. And she zoned out, and she had this event where supposedly she says that she, fell out on the floor and whatever happened. And she did that after her mom and Heath left one day and went to the grocery store. But I just want to be clear, it's not a case about marijuana. It's simply a case about, her actions. And so Bennett and Sarah Catherine, they devised this plan. They're going to tell Miss Smiley. Well, obviously, you heard testimony that one of the things that Miss Smiley was worried about was her daughter, Carly, the love of her life. You heard that she had another daughter who died at a very young age from some type of genetic disorder that she had. So you got Carly here. She's the love of Ashley's life. Obviously, she's disappointed, probably a little bit sad, probably worried for her daughter. And the last thing that she wants her to do, according to the defense, is turn into her dad, right? Her biological dad, who you've heard about, who obviously liked to use a lot of drugs, abuse a lot of drugs. So at some point, she confronts Carly. She searches her backpack, whether in the car, on the ride home, or at the school. And then you see them get home, and you heard Dr. Pickett talk about it yesterday, that the situation seemed a little bit tense, right? That they get out of the car in their garage. You don't hear, they're not talking to each other. And they go in, you see Ashley put her coat and her phone down on the bar there in the kitchen, and she proceeds directly to the side of the house where Carly's room's located, presumably to start searching through Carly's room, right? And so you see Carly kind of walk back and forth. You see her walk there to the living room area and kind of listen to see what her mom's doing. At some point, she eventually takes the dogs out, right? I don't know what happened while she was outside, ladies and gentlemen, but at some point whenever she was outside, she made up her mind, if not long before. And we'll talk about that in a second, her conversations with her friend from MSMS, Thad, that you heard from. But at some point outside, she makes up her mind exactly what she's going to do. And she comes back in from taking out the dogs. She walks there to that living room area, kind of listens to see if her mom's still in her room. And then, without hesitation, she walks, as Dr. Pickett said, to the side of the house, her mom and Heath's bedroom, where this pistol is located. She knows it's located there. Now, they want you to believe that from the time she brought the dogs back in, or took the dogs out, that she blacked out at that point. You heard me ask Dr. Clark. Well, from the time she took out the dogs to the time she was arrested by Deputy Shack, who you also heard from, that she was blacked out in that period. Well, that's a real convenient time to be blacked out, right? And so she brings the dogs back in, and she goes directly to her mom's room and Heath's room, and she retrieves this pistol. And you see her walk back across the screen. Well, when she gets there, she looks around the corner into the kitchen to make sure that her mom hasn't come out of her room, knowing exactly what she's doing. Cool, calm, calculated, and callous. She walks directly, she proceeds to her room, and a couple seconds later, you hear the shots. Boom, boom. You hear two shots within 3 seconds of each other. You've seen the pictures. You heard Dr. Pickett testify yesterday. 2 well-placed shots right to the side of Miss Smiley's head, a relatively small target. And then a couple seconds later, boom, you hear a 3rd shot right under the chin. And we believe it's right under the chin is the 3rd shot. We know it's right under the chin. We believe it's the 3rd shot. You heard Deputy Investigator Burnell talk about the stippling, the powder burn around the shot, right? And he tells you that based off his training and experience that shot had to be within 36 inches because that's when you see stippling. The powder that comes out that's still ignited, that doesn't have time to burn, and it burns right here on Miss Smiley's face. And then what does she do? Immediately. You'll see on the video that happens at 4:14 p.m. Immediately she comes back in. She gets on her mom's phone. She has the wherewithal to enter her mom's code onto her phone and to text someone specific. And that someone specific was her stepdad, Heath Smiley. And you'll see that text message was sent within the same minute, 4:14, that she shot and killed her mom. And what does she say to him? Something to the effect of, "When are you going to be home, honey?" And it's perfect grammar. The comma's in the right place right before honey. Right? She knows exactly what she's doing. She comes in there. She knows exactly where the camera is. She comes. She's got the gun hidden behind her. She slides down into the chair, and you hear her put it down on the bar stool. You can hear whenever you get back to the jury room, you'll be able to hear that. She puts it down. And you hear Dr. Pickett talk about she's got the wherewithal to know exactly where the dogs are. The dog walks behind her. You'll see him. He walks behind her, and she knows let me make sure he doesn't knock the gun off. Right? At some point, she begins text messaging her friends. She shoots her mom at 4:14. Then she invites her friend from school, who you heard from, Brooke. She invites Brooke over. You'll see the messages between her and Brooke. They're in evidence. And you'll see where Brooke texts her at 4:58, basically 45 minutes later, and says, "I'm here." Brooke had no clue what she was about to walk into. Carly meets her at the door, says something to the effect of, "Have you ever seen or are you squeamish of dead bodies?" Well, Brooke says, "I don't know. I've never seen a dead body." Not thinking that there's a dead body currently in the house. Right? Carly's walking around with the gun. Carly leads her back to the room and shows her dead mom, who's got her arms crossed over, who's been posed. Right? She's posed her mom at this point. She's put her arms across her. She's put a red towel over her face. Again, cool, calm, and calculated. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly who to reach out to during this time. She's reaching out to all of her friends. You heard from multiple friends that she reached out to. You heard from her friend Thad, who she was texting. And actually, before they text, she calls him on FaceTime. And what does she tell him? Well, she tells him, and excuse my language, "I fucked up." Right? Well, how do you know you messed up if you don't know what you did? She knew what she did. She knew the difference between right and wrong. So she obviously tells Thad, but she can't tell him what she did. She knows she can't tell him over the phone. Well, then, being a good friend and being worried, Thad begins to text her after they get off the phone. And they're messaging. Well, of course, in the meantime, she's walking back and forth in and out of her room where her mom's located. She's walking back and forth. She's sending messages to multiple other friends. And Dad is messaging her, but he can't get a response. And he says, "I'm worried about you. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to call 911. And she says, "You can't do that." Why? Why can't you call 911? Because she knows what she did was wrong. And she doesn't want 911 over there because she's about to try to kill Heath. And she doesn't want 911 over there because it's going to ruin her plan. Right? Knowing the difference between right and wrong. And you heard me, I very specifically asked Dr. Clark, You render the opinion that she could not appreciate the difference between right and wrong. Right? Well, you heard Dr. Pickett and Dr. Gugliano testify yesterday. That's not the standard in Mississippi. In fact, there's an instruction in here that defines, it's jury instruction number 10, that defines exactly what insanity is. And it goes on down there, and it says that the accused was laboring under such defective reasoning from disease of mind as to not know the nature and quality of the act she was doing, or 2, if she did know the nature and quality of the act she was doing, she did not know what she was doing was wrong. It's not appreciate. The standard in Mississippi is not that you appreciate the difference between right and wrong. She knew what she was doing was wrong. Look at all of her actions. Sneaking around the house. Calling over the friends. Knowing not to tell the friends over the phone what she did. SK that they called in yesterday, her friend. You know, what does she say? Dr. Pickett talked about it. Well, she says, I'll tell you tomorrow if I see you. Well, why would I not see you tomorrow? Well, because I'm going to be in jail, probably. Right? She knew what she did was wrong. She tells her friend, Brooke, whenever Brooke comes over, she says, I put 3 in my mom, and I've got 3 more in here for Heath whenever he gets home. Right? I'm going to take care of him. 3 more what? 3 more bullets in the gun. She texted her friend, Bennett, tried to call him, did call him, text him, and he tells her, of course, again, he's a good friend too. He's worried about her. Same one that told her mom what had been going on, that he was worried about her. Trying to do the right thing. He tells her, don't hurt yourself or anyone else. Don't harm yourself or anyone else. What does she say? Too late. Again, knowing the difference between right and wrong. You saw the video from Deputy Shack, and they want you to believe that he did something wrong because he muted his body cam or whatever he did. He told you that whenever he got Carly out of the back of his car and the other deputy started performing the GSR test on Carly's hands, which you saw them doing there, being as nice as all get out to her, right? Baby, are you okay? You heard him say that his involvement in the case was over. He never went in the house. He didn't transport her to jail or anywhere else.
2 minutes, sir.
They want you to believe that him muting the body cam was him doing something wrong. He told you that his involvement was done and over at that time. Now, I want to play just a short clip of the video for you before my time's up. ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt that Carly Madison Gregg is the one who killed her mom, Ashley Smiley. There's no doubt that she attempted to kill Heath Smiley when she aimed the gun right at his head and shot and hit him in the shoulder. And there's no doubt that she's the one who hid the camera, thus tampering with evidence in the refrigerator. And we would ask you that you go back there and you find her guilty of all three, because she was not insane at the time that this happened. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew the difference between right and wrong.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me pick up right where Mr. Kent left off, ladies and gentlemen. What he was telling you is that if you find the defendant not guilty by reason of insanity and you decide that she's been restored to competency, she'll walk out the door of this courthouse. You heard about voices. Let me tell you whose voice I'm talking about today. Ashley Smiley. Ashley Smiley's voice matters. Because of Carly Gregg's actions, we will never hear Ashley Gregg's voice again. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the very last noise she made. Carly Gregg, her daughter, took a gun, walked across the house, pulled it out on her mother, fired once, you hear her mother scream. Fired twice, you hear her mother scream. 1, 2, 3, 4, you hear the third shot, ladies and gentlemen. You saw that awful picture. You saw the stippling. You saw what she did. That person has not been restored. That person was never insane to begin with. You know what you didn't hear the defense attorneys talk about? The insanity standard. You know why you don't want to talk about the standard? Because they can't prove it. They can't prove it, ladies and gentlemen. You know what they tried to stand up here and say? The state hasn't told you why. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk during voir dire, what do we talk about? That's not the state's burden. You won't find one place in the jury instructions that it tells you that the state of Mississippi has the burden to show you why Carly Gregg killed her mother, to show you why Carly Gregg attempted to kill Heath Smiley, to show you why Carly Gregg removed that camera that caught her actions and hid it into the refrigerator. That's not our burden. Our burden is to show beyond a reasonable doubt that she did it. And the defense attorneys have admitted that she did it. Let's talk about who needed help. Ms. Todd wanted to talk about Ms. Gregg needed help. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that the two people that were begging for help was Ashley Smiley and Heath Smiley. We heard the 911 call. He says, "Oh my God, she's killed her mother and she tried to kill me." He says on there, "Please help. Send me help." He tried to say that, oh, now maybe Carly didn't mean to kill me. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why he's saying that, but I know that she shot him 6 inches from his head. And I know that she told Brooke Wafer, her friend, that I put 3 in my mom and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad. You think that sounds like an insane person? No. That's a person that knew this gun right here, this .357 Magnum, had 7 rounds. That's a person that knew that she'd put 3 of them in her mama's head. She had 3 more waiting for Heath, and who knows what she was doing with the last one. The why doesn't matter. They want to talk about the doctors. Dr. Pickett this, Dr. Clark that. Y'all heard him. Dr. Pickett said, yes, this is the first time I've had to testify in a criminal trial. But I have evaluated over 100 people for competency and sanity. You heard from Dr. Gugliano when she took the witness stand that she's done hundreds, if not more, evaluations of sanity and competency. Let me tell you what you heard from Dr. Clark. When the defense went to tender him as a forensic psychiatrist, he said, no, that's not what I am. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Did he render any opinions specific to children? No. Does his diagnosis of Carly Gregg matter? No. When you look at the standard in the state of Mississippi to be able to prove insanity, all right, she has a mental illness, right? I think we can all agree that those records state that from the time she was a small girl until we sit here today, that she has anxiety and depression. Ladies and gentlemen, It is undisputed that anxiety and depression do not cause someone to commit murder. It is undisputed in this courtroom that Kevin Gregg, if you believe his diagnoses, if you believe he was bipolar, schizophrenic, drug addict, all of it, does any of it matter? No, because you know what he didn't do? He didn't kill his parents. Ladies and gentlemen, the diagnosis doesn't matter. You heard, and I made notes of it, when Dr. Clark was testifying, Michael Smith was asking him, did she know right from wrong? That's what we got to know. Did she know right from wrong? He says, well, she knew something about what happened. Okay, well, she knew. Then he goes further and he said there was some level of awareness about what she was doing. Let's talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. She knew where she was. She knew who to call. She knew her mom's passcode. She knew where the loaded weapon was. You have pictures and evidence. There were other guns at the house. She didn't go pick up that unloaded shotgun and take it in there to where Mama was. No. She went in there with that .357 Magnum that she knew was fully loaded. She knew to text her friends. She knew to FaceTime her friends. She called them by the right name. She called them by their nicknames. She said, I fucked up. She said, don't call 911. You know why, ladies and gentlemen? She wasn't done with her plan. We don't have to prove why she wanted to kill Heath Smiley. All we know is she did. All we know is that after she killed her mom at 4:14 in the afternoon, she lied in wait, sent a message to her stepdad saying, hey, honey, when will you be home? She knew not to do it from her phone. She did it from Mom's phone. When will you be home? Because I'm waiting for you. Sends him a thumbs up. Then when he comes in the door, what's she do? Points the gun at his head, ladies and gentlemen. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. And then, when she wasn't sure if she was successful, she ran. Insane people do not run because they don't know right from wrong. Insane people do not tell people, I need help, because they don't think they've done anything wrong. Insane people do not flee the scene. Again, they do not know right from wrong. Carly Gregg knew everything she was doing that day. What Dr. Clark said from the witness stand is that he wants you to put all your common sense aside. There's a whole stack of medical records. He says, I didn't really pay much attention to the medical records. Not any of those other providers that actually treated Carly that said there was no mention of voices. There was no mention of lapses in time, these disassociations. But you know what I'm going to rely on? Oh, wait, no. I also didn't look at the text messages. I didn't think it was important to know what the defendant was doing at the time of the crime and between when she killed her mom and when she attempted to kill her dad. That wasn't that important. You know what's important? What the defendant said after she's been arrested for violent crimes. That's what he relied on, ladies and gentlemen. He said, well, Carly said that there were voices before. Pretty convenient, right? We talked in voir dire on Monday about why do people lie? Why do people lie? Protection. Dr. Clark said on the stand, Lexapro doesn't cause murder. Lexapro might cause people to be more prone to suicide. Lexapro does not cause people to murder. Dr. Clark said on the stand that disassociation, that's what Carly had, right? That's what he diagnosed her with. But he couldn't say that disassociation causes people to commit murders. In fact, what he said was that people tend to disassociate when they are experiencing trauma. Let's think about that. Common sense tells you if someone's in a disassociated state, they don't know what's going on, it's because they are on the receiving end of the violence. They're sex trafficking victims. They're prisoners of war. They're not children that are mad at their parents because they found out about their secret life. He expects us to believe that we can take the word of the defendant who has never reported, even to Rebecca Kirk, who she said she loved and trusted. She never reported voices to Rebecca Kirk. She never reported these lapses in time. In fact, you didn't hear that from any provider that's ever seen Carly. Let's take another step. Then, Carly doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. She tells Dr. Pickett, oh yeah, I was still having one of these moments. So let's talk about, she's safe? Heck no, ladies and gentlemen. She's claiming that she's still having those moments while she's in our courtroom. During one of our hearings, she's saying she was in one of these disassociated spells. During her evaluation with Dr. Clark, she reported that she was having one of these disassociated spells. During her evaluation with Dr. Pickett, she was claiming she was having a disassociated spell. But you know what? She remembered every bit of it. I find it interesting that she told Dr. Clark that she has nightmares. She hears gunshots. You don't hear gunshots if you don't remember them. You don't have PTSD from an event that you don't recall. She told Dr. Gugliano that she gets queasy. She gets sick to her stomach when she thinks about what happened that night. I would too. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we've seen the pictures. We know what she did. That's not the face of someone who's insane. We don't have to prove the why. When Dr. Gugliano asked her, Carly, what's bothering you the most right now? She said, I always ask patients that when I'm evaluating them. Carly said, I'm missing school. Think about that. Not, I miss my mom. I'm so sorry that I did this. Oh, I hate what I've done to my family. I'm missing school. I asked Ben at Germany when he took the stand, you and Carly are still great friends, right? He said, best friends. Y'all talk all the time? Yeah, all the time, even now that she's in jail. I said, Bennett, on any of your calls, any call, has Carly expressed remorse for what she has done? He took that stand and he said no. I want to talk about Bennett too. He said, while I was asking him a question at some point, he said, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I zoned out. Ladies and gentlemen, we've all had a moment where we've zoned out. We've all had a moment where we've driven down the road and got there and thought, how did I get here? I don't remember, but I knew I drove here. I tell you, when I have those moments, I'm not insane. I know exactly how I got there because I was the one driving the car. I know right from wrong, and Carly knew right from wrong that day. There is no record, no medical record of Carly hearing voices before this. I want to talk to you about some of the things, some of Carly's actions. Let's talk about some of her willful actions. First of all, I want to show you these two. Let's not forget this. These were recovered from inside Ashley Smiley's brain and neck. Who put them there? Carly Gregg. Carly Gregg's willful actions. Let's talk about that. We talked about she knew where her house was. We talked about she knew that her mom was upset with her. She told Dr. Pickett, yeah, my mom was very upset. The defense wanted you to believe that everything was hunky-dory that day. It wasn't. We've seen the videos. She may not have been yelling, but she sure was upset. We know that Carly knew her mom's password. We know that she intentionally pulled the trigger not once, not twice, but 3 times, shot her in the head. We know that she called her friends over. We know that she told them don't call the police. We know that she wouldn't let them know what was going on. We know that she tells Brooke, right? Let's talk about the tampering with evidence. She tells Brooke when she comes in the house, one of the first things she asks is, are you queasy around dead bodies? Ladies and gentlemen, use your common sense. What does that mean? I know if I'm asking somebody that, it's because there's a dead body. She knew that she had killed her mom. She tells Brooke, I got 3 waiting for my stepdad. She knew that she was going to shoot her stepdad. She also tells Brooke something important. Oh, don't worry. I pulled the cameras down already. I pulled the cameras down. She knew enough to rip that camera off of where it was, hide it in the refrigerator. Was it a perfect plan? No. Nobody ever said her plan was perfect. That's why we're here. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not insanity. That's not insanity. I want to talk about Deputy Shack and his interaction. Mr. Camp said, oh yeah, he's saying she doesn't even know about her mother. We heard from Deputy Shack. He took the stand. He said she never asked about her mother. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the only person she asked about in her interaction with law enforcement? How's Heath. You know why? Because the only thing Carly Gregg didn't know from that day was whether or not she was successful in killing Heath Smiley. That's the only thing she didn't know. Again, the defense wanted to talk about it's the highest burden of proof. We have the highest burden of proof in criminal law. The state of Mississippi has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Carly Gregg intended to kill her mother and did kill her. We have done that. They don't dispute that. We have to prove that Carly Gregg intended to kill Heath Smiley and was unsuccessful. They don't dispute that. We have to prove that Carly Gregg intended to remove evidence and hide it. We've already proved that. They don't dispute that. The only thing that the defense wants you to do is to have sympathy for the defendant, to believe this story that she's made up after she's been arrested. Dr. Clark talked about that on the stand, right? He admitted that there's research out there that shows that there is a large population of people that claim disassociation after they have committed homicide. And we asked him, why? Secondary gain. What's secondary gain? So I don't get in trouble. Pretty convenient. If I don't remember what happened, I was having an out-of-body experience. Maybe they can't get on to me. Ladies and gentlemen, don't fall for that. That does not make sense. I want to talk about some of Carly's journals and some of the text messages. The text messages are in evidence, the ones that she sent to her friends between the time she killed her mom and when she attempted to kill her stepdad. One of them's not. But Thad testified from the witness stand that after he showed up at her parents' house, he and Carly were having a discussion, and Carly said, oh yeah, my mom was holding me down in the chair. She wouldn't let me come out there. And then she texts him later and says, I almost murdered my parents. She was so mad in February that she tells Thad, I almost murdered my parents. And then when I asked Heath about it, when he took the stand, he said, no, Carly wasn't mad. Carly never was angry. He says, Carly never yelled. Ladies and gentlemen, she told us in February what she was going to do. I want you to look at her journals. There's a page back there that says, what do I believe? There's no God. Heaven and hell are false. You writing your own destiny. And these two stand out to me, ladies and gentlemen. She told us what her intent was. You don't need family, and it's okay to be evil.
2 minutes, man.
There's another one I want you to look at. Dr. Pickett talked about it. She wrote, water, fire, earth. Water, fire, earth. She circles fire, ladies and gentlemen, and she wrote, these are Carly Gregg's own words. Miss Todd stated when we got started the other day, what's better, watching a video of what happened or hearing somebody talk about it? Well, I submit to you, we have all of the above in this case. We got to, unfortunately, watch a video of what happened. We've seen photos of what happened. We have audio of what happened. We have the defendant's journals and text messages telling us what happened. She says, I choose fire. It is powerful, beautiful, and deadly. These are the traits I desire, so I choose fire. Ladies and gentlemen, that lady right there chose fire. She chose to murder her mother, tried to kill her stepdad, and then tried to cover it up. We ask that when you go back to the jury room, that you'll look at all the evidence, that you'll consider the testimony that you've heard, that you will not be misled or confused by the fact that the defendant tries to put a burden on the state that does not exist. We do not have to prove the why. We will likely never know the why, but we know that Carly Gregg is guilty of murder, attempted murder, and tampering with physical evidence, and we ask you to find the same. Thank you.